I've made so many dessert recipes over the past few years, so I thought I'd take a look back and share some of our favorites. And I tried to pick out ones with all the flavors that'll be perfect for this time of year. Hey y'all, I'm Valerie and welcome to my kitchen. In today's video, I'm sharing 6 of the best ever Thanksgiving dessert recipes your family is gonna go crazy over. Okay y'all, let's get started. I make a whole lot of desserts, but this apple pie delight has to be a favorite. This is like the apple version of the old-fashioned chocolate delight. I'm starting out by making the crust, and I'm just doing this in a 9x13. Okay, and in the dish here I have 2 cups of graham cracker crumbs, 3 tablespoons of brown sugar, and 1 tablespoon of cinnamon. I did give it a little mix just to break that brown sugar up. Then I added in 7 tablespoons of melted butter. You're going to mix it until it resembles kind of like wet sand. Now you're just going to press it down into an even layer. And I find it easier to use my large measuring cup just to make sure I get it good and packed down. I set that aside for a minute so I can make the filling. In a separate bowl, I'm adding 8 ounces of softened cream cheese, along with half a cup of granulated sugar, and a teaspoon of vanilla. Now you're going to use your electric mixer to mix this until it's very well combined. Now you're going to need a total of 16 ounces of whipped topping. I'm using 2 8-ounce containers here. But right now we're only going to add 8 ounces to this cream cheese sugar mixture. And you can feel free to fold this in, but I already had my mixer out, so I just gave it a really good mix. Okay, and now we're going to take that crust and pour that filling mixture evenly over the top. And just be careful when you're spreading it out. Just make sure you do it gently. That way that crust won't get mixed in with that filling mixture. And spread it out into a real good even layer. And you're going to need 2 cans of apple pie filling. You can pour them on as is, but I like to kind of cut my apples up into small pieces. It's easier to eat that way, and it's easier to serve that way. And that was both cans of the chopped up apple pie filling that I'm pouring on there. And we're going to do the same with this. Just spread it out, gently spread it out into an even layer. And for the final layer, we're going to spread over another 8 ounces of whipped topping. Just get it on there and spread it out. And this next step is completely optional, but just to make it look a little fancy, I sprinkled over some cinnamon and then I drizzled it with some caramel sauce. And when it comes to desserts, you know, chocolate, anything chocolate is my absolute favorite. But I will say, apple is a very close second. Now this goes into the refrigerator to chill for at least 4 hours, or even better if you can let it chill overnight. This apple pie delight is outrageous, as my daddy would say. We all loved it, and actually my nephew Logan and my niece Lila were down, and I shared some with them, and Logan was eating it, and he said he couldn't stop eating it. It is really that good, I'm telling you. That buttery graham cracker crust, that cream cheese layer, the apple pie filling, it all comes together perfectly. This baked peanut butter pie ended up being a top #1 for us. You'll need some peanut butter, and you can use your favorite here. Just make sure it's the creamy kind. And I'm adding in a half a cup of that. Next, we're going to add in 1 cup of light corn syrup. I was a little bit short. I had 3/4 of a cup, so I did 3/4 cup of corn syrup and 1/4 cup of honey. By the way, I have a lot of holiday recipes coming out this week, but next week, y'all are going to have to let me know, what do y'all want to see more of? Do y'all want to see crock pot meals, one-pot meals, maybe some casseroles? Just let me know below. Okay, that was half a cup of granulated sugar I added in there, along with 4 beaten eggs, half a teaspoon of salt, and 1 teaspoon of vanilla. Now whisk that until it's well combined. And I really do suggest using a mixer here. I'm not sure what I was thinking, because you do want to make sure you get it all mixed together really good. I'm using the Pillsbury deep dish frozen pie crust for this one, and this does not need to be par baked. You can just go ahead and pour in that peanut butter filling. Now this goes into the oven to bake at 350 for about an hour. This thing really puffed up. I was shocked. I wasn't expecting that, but I just kept my eye on it. When I took it out of the oven, it was still puffed up, but after about 5 or 10 minutes, it completely fell, which was fine because I wanted it to be more fudgy, peanut buttery like. This pie was so delicious. I drizzled over some chocolate syrup, but you can really get creative here. I think it would be really good with some raspberry preserve spread on top. It would be more like a peanut butter and jelly pie. I think that would be amazing. This pie did not last no time in my house. It was completely gone the very next day. So next time I make it, I'm for sure making 2 at a time. I mean, it was that good. Just look at that. I'm telling you, this pie was amazing. If you want to put together an easy dessert, you have to try this pumpkin spice poke cake. In a large bowl, I added in 1 box of the pumpkin spice cake mix. You could also use a yellow cake mix if you prefer. Now on this one, I am going to follow the directions on the back of the box. This one called for water, but I always use milk. It also called for eggs and oil. Now I'm adding 1 cup of this pure pumpkin puree. Not the pumpkin pie filling, just 100% pure pumpkin. Now mix this until it's well combined. This smells amazing already. And that was it for the cake part. I'm just pouring it in a greased 9x13 baking dish. This is that same 5-quart 9x13. And this is also my favorite nonstick spray, especially for cakes. You're just going to pour all that cake batter in, and then you're going to bake it according to the directions on the back of that cake mix box. And while that's in the oven, or a few minutes before the cake is done, we're going to make up a super quick caramel sauce to pour on top. In a small bowl, I added 1 can of sweetened condensed milk. And I wanted to get every last drop out of here. You're also going to add in a jar of caramel sauce. The recipe called for a 12.25 ounce jar. This one is 14 ounces, but there's nothing wrong with a little extra caramel. You're just going to stir this, and I probably should have got my whisk out, but I didn't want to dirty anything else up, so I just stirred it until it was well combined. Now as soon as that cake comes out of the oven, you're going to poke holes all over the top. You can use anything you can find. I'm just using one of the attachments to my mixer. And the more holes you poke in there, the more room you have for that sauce. Now you're going to pour all that sauce on there. And I just use the back of the spoon to try to spread it out and kind of work it down into those holes. And sometimes it tends to run away from the middle and over to the sides. So I like to kind of press down on the middle. That way more of that sauce gets in the middle there. And I didn't end up adding it all. That way I had a couple tablespoons to drizzle over the top. And you do want to let this one sit out and cool completely. You can see how much it soaks up that sauce. You're going to add 8 ounces of the whipped topping. Now, before I did this, I was supposed to sprinkle the top of that cake with some Heath toffee bits, but I completely forgot about them, even though they were sitting right there beside me. So you should add a half a cup of those Heath toffee bits on before you add the whipped topping. And now we're going to top it with another. Yes, I said another. Just pretend that I already added half a cup of those Heath toffee bits underneath the whipped topping. So we're topping it with another half cup more. And I took that leftover caramel sauce and drizzled it over the top. And I couldn't help myself. I had to add on more toffee because I missed out on that first layer. You could also use those chocolate toffee bits. I bet those would be really good. Now this goes into the refrigerator, covered, for at least 4 hours, or it's really better if you can let it sit overnight. I would suggest making it the day before, because it's just even better that way. This was so good, and I'm definitely going to make it for Thanksgiving. And if you're not a fan of pumpkin pie, don't worry. I'm pretty sure you're going to love this one. It must be the caramel that just kind of takes it to a whole nother level. We all loved this one. This sweet potato honey bun cake is one I'll be making all year long. I'm starting out by making the filling for the middle of this cake. In a medium-sized bowl, I added 1 cup of brown sugar, about a tablespoon of cinnamon, about 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg, and 1/3 cup of chopped pecans, or pecans, however you want to say it. You'll just want to stir this until combined, and then set it aside. We'll need it here shortly. Now to get started on the cake, in a large bowl, I'm adding 1 butter golden cake mix. You can also do yellow. You're also going to add 1 cup of sour cream. This does not make it taste like sour cream, it just adds in a lot of moisture. Next, add in 1 cup of mashed sweet potatoes. I actually put mine in the food processor and pureed them until they were smooth. Then you're going to add 4 eggs, 3/4 cup of oil, and about a teaspoon of vanilla. I decided to add in a little cinnamon to this also. I just love cinnamon though. Now you're going to mix this all until it's completely and well combined. I'm going to make this in a 9x13 baking dish, and you definitely want to spray this one with nonstick spray. We do not want this thing to stick. Okay, for this, you're going to pour in half of that sweet potato batter. Just spread it out and it will be kind of thin. And I felt like I didn't add quite half of that batter in there, so I spread a little more. You just want to make sure that bottom is completely covered. And remember that filling we made up just a little bit ago? You're going to take that and sprinkle it all over that first layer of cake. And yes, I know it looks like a lot, but don't hold back. I'm telling you, sprinkle it all. And y'all, by the way, I've already started on my next box cake mix video. I just made something with an orange cake. It was so good. Y'all are not going to want to miss that one. Okay, after you get that filling all on there, you do want to spread it out and make sure it covers that entire cake. Then on top of that, you're going to drizzle over the other half of that cake batter. And it works out much better if you drizzle it over and then use an offset spatula to kind of spread it out. I just tried my best not to get that filling mixed into that top layer. I am going to swirl it together a little bit, but I didn't want it to be completely mixed in. So after I got it spread out, I just used my knife to kind of do a little swirls here and there. And this don't have to be done in any certain way, just swirl it around a little bit. Now this cake goes into the oven to bake at 350 for 40 to 45 minutes, or until a toothpick comes out clean. After it was done, I did let it sit for a little bit. It does fall after it sits, but then I set it to the side to make up the glaze. In a small bowl, I added 1 cup of powdered sugar along with 3 or 4 tablespoons of milk, and you're just going to whisk this until it's completely smooth. I decided to throw in a splash of vanilla here, and you know, I have never made the original honey bun cake. That's one I got to add to my list. Have y'all made the original one? If you have, let me know how you like it. Okay, now you're going to take that glaze and pour it all over the top of that cake. And if you feel like this is too much glaze, you can always cut it in half. And I haven't tried it yet, but I'm sure this would work out with a powdered sugar substitute. I've had a few of you to ask about sugar-free things, and I do know that Pillsbury makes a really good sugar-free cake mix, so you could definitely try one of those. Now just spread that out to completely cover the top of that cake. This was so good, and y'all know I shared some of this with my daddy, and he loved it. And if you're not a fan of the pecans, you can definitely leave them out. You can swap them out for walnuts. Oh, and I did want to mention, when you first make this cake, it does kind of fall apart a little bit, but after it sits for a while, it really kind of sets up. And this had my house smelling amazing. And as you can see, at this point, half of that cake was already gone. We all immediately dug in, and it was gone in no time. This is my no-bake oatmeal cream pie marshmallow cheesecake, and I think you're going to love it. To get started, you're going to add in 2 of the 8-ounce blocks of softened cream cheese. And it's very, very important that these are completely softened, or else the cheesecake filling will not be completely creamy. You're also going to add in 1 cup of powdered sugar. And we're going to go ahead and mix these 2 together until they're completely smooth. So I'm curious, do y'all prefer baked cheesecakes or no-bake cheesecakes? I'm not picky when it comes to cheesecakes. I'll take either one. Okay, I got that mixture nice and smooth. Now I'm adding in 1.5 cups of marshmallow fluff. And this stuff is very, very sticky, but it's also very, very good. Now I'm adding in a teaspoon of vanilla extract, and then I'm going to mix it until it's well combined. Now you have a choice on what you use for this next ingredient. I'm using an 8-ounce container of whipped topping. I'm just folding that into the cream cheese mixture. But if you want, feel free to make your own homemade here. I'm just taking the easy way out. And I'm technically supposed to fold that in, but I just used my mixer and mixed it until it was well combined. Now we're going to set that aside so we can make the crust. I'm using a 9-inch springform pan. You'll need a 12-count box of the oatmeal cream pies. And you're just going to completely cover the bottom of that pan with those. And then I started to flatten them out here and felt like I needed to add 1 more oatmeal cream pie just to fill in those little empty spots. And it does not have to be perfect. So I used a total of 7 oatmeal cream pies for the bottom of this crust. And then when you get that all packed down in there nice and even, we're going to make up the sides. I took those remaining 5 oatmeal cream pies and I cut them in half, and then I turned each one up flat side down and went all the way around that springform pan. And when you put them in here, you do want to press against the sides and also press them at the bottom to connect them to that bottom crust. We got that done, and now it's time to add in that marshmallow cheesecake filling. And y'all, this stuff is delicious. You're just going to pour that in and spread it out into an even layer. And I had to kind of mush mine down in there to get it all filled completely to the edges. Now this is going into the refrigerator to chill until it's completely set. I'd say at least 6 hours, but I let mine chill overnight. And yes, my husband was driving me crazy until I got this out and cut it. But I'm telling you, it is well worth the wait. This is absolutely delicious. That marshmallow cheesecake filling goes perfectly with those oatmeal cream pies. Now, if you don't like oatmeal cream pies, or maybe you just don't have them on hand, feel free to make your own graham cracker crust for this. It'll still be delicious. But I'm telling you, those things just take this cheesecake to a whole nother level. And they make it look pretty. You definitely got to try this one. And that marshmallow fluff in there just adds the best flavor. And this cheesecake sets up beautifully. This apple cider bundt cake was one I've been wanting to try for a really long time. Okay, the recipe called for 1 box of yellow cake mix. Make sure it's a 15.25 ounce box, but instead I decided to use a spice cake mix. So Miss Gail, this is one you might want to try. Okay, and we're not following the directions on the back of the box. You're going to add in 1 cup of apple cider, not apple juice, apple cider. We're also going to add in 1/2 cup of applesauce, 3 eggs, and 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon. I think I went a little heavy on the cinnamon. Oh, and also a tablespoon of brown sugar and a teaspoon of vanilla. And this is real life here. I thought I had those things hooked in good, but I did not. We're just going to mix it up until it's well combined. I'm using my Bundt pan, and I did grease it with Crisco, and I sprayed it with Baker's Joy nonstick spray. I did not want this cake to stick. Now we're just going to pour in that apple cider cake batter. The spiced apple cider cake batter. And by the way, it smells absolutely amazing. Now this goes into the oven to bake at 350 for 40 to 45 minutes, or until a toothpick inserted comes out clean. And here it is out of the oven, and this is my favorite part when I make a bundt cake, is flipping it out onto the cake plate. It's always like a little sigh of relief when it all comes out perfectly. It's like you're crossing your fingers. And this one came out beautifully. I did get it on there a little crooked though, so I had to push it back to the middle. And we're going to let this cake sit out to cool, and then we can add the topping. I've got 1/4 cup of sugar here. To that, I'm adding 2 tablespoons of cinnamon. And you're just going to stir it around to get it good and mixed together. And we're going to sprinkle this sugar cinnamon mixture over the cake, but just to make sure it sticks good, you're going to melt down 1/4 cup of butter, that's 4 tablespoons, melt it, and then you're going to brush it all over the top of that cake. Or the top and the sides, you want to get it all on there, all covered. And then you're going to take that cinnamon sugar mixture and sprinkle it all over the top. And I probably could have used my hands just to get it, make sure I got it on the sides. I ended up kind of tilting the cake up and sprinkling it on that way. There was a little bit of sugar left over. Now I did add it all, but there was some that fell down onto the cake plate. So you could technically cut that sugar topping in half if you wanted to. And I am so glad I used that spice cake for this. It did have a very strong spice apple flavor, but we loved it. It was perfect. But definitely, if you're not a fan of the spice cake, definitely use a yellow cake mix. I would not change a thing about this though. Also, it is a very moist cake. It was delicious. Perfect to make for the holidays, perfect for fall or any time of the year. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe down below for more easy recipes, and I will see you in the next one.